Hey, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bentley. Today, my guest is Daanish Azim.
Yes, sir.
I get it right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Awesome. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. My name is Daanish Azim. I'm 28 years old. I've pretty much been an entrepreneur since I was like 18, 19 years old. That's when I started like my first business, which had to do with like reselling phones. But now, primarily for the last 3 years, I've shifted into the Airbnb, more specifically Airbnb arbitrage rental space, and currently operate about 18 Airbnb properties, doing about 80 to 90K a month in revenue, and also been coaching other people on how to start and scale an Airbnb business.
You know, one of the things that I really liked about your story is just your perseverance. And it kind of reminded me of myself, and even myself going in right now, like just, trying to preserve myself in the real estate economy. Talk to me about like just kind of like where you've been and how you got here to where you're at today.
Yeah, so to keep it short, I started my entrepreneurship journey at 18, 19 years old, which was reselling phones. Did that for a bit. Then I got into the industry of like network marketing, MLM industry. Then I got very deep into like the crypto space. Did pretty good with that, but at the end of the day, like I tell most people now, like crypto, you're not learning skills. So if you have extra money, great. But if you don't focus too much on it. And then after that, I was like, okay, I need to get more into something like I can cash flow. So eventually got into like life insurance sales. But before life insurance sales, I had like a pretty bad situation where I ended up like losing everything. I had to go through like a bankruptcy in 2022. And that's eventually when I jumped into like going back into doing Uber, which I used to do, and got into the life insurance space. And that was going pretty good. But I just got sick and tired of just doing sales with life insurance. So that's like when I came across the Airbnb opportunity, watched some like YouTube videos, got into like different programs, courses, started learning about it, and then pretty much just got started. Like any business I tell people, like you just have to start it eventually. Like there's only so much learning you can do. Got started with it in around 2022, and short story now, 3 years later, I have about 18 properties and do this pretty much full time.
Wow. Talk to me about the Uber driving, because like I've had people that do Uber. I've run into some people that are like super successful doing Uber. I've run into some people that like they got nothing to do between a certain amount of time, so they go out and make a couple bucks. Like, is it really profitable?
I mean, I did it in the years of like 2018, 2020, and I also did it in the years of like 21, 22 era. I mean, I personally didn't hate it because if you don't hate driving, it's okay. I was doing it back home in Chicago. But it got very annoying, and it's very like you get very tired. If you do it full time or you're doing it 30, 40, 50 hours in a week, it's super exhausting. Like driving, sitting in a car for 8 or 10 hours, you come home, like you have no motivation to like even hit the gym or do anything. Cause if you ever sit in a car for 8 hours, you're like exhausted. So yes, could you make like, I remember on weekends I would drive for 8 or 10 hours. I'd make 200, 250, and it's pretty much cash, right? Like you could put that Uber money into your bank account the same day if you want for like a very small fee. But eventually I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm making $200-300 in a day, which is like survivable, but I'm trading all my 8-10 hours a day, which is like what your most value is your time. And I was like, okay, I can't do this for much longer. It's a great way to stack up some money, make some extra money, but it's like at the end of the day, you don't want to trade all your time just to make a little bit amount of money. And that's why I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this. And that's when I was like, let me get into sales, let me get into a business, all that stuff.
I got into insurance sales. I thought it was pretty cool. The thing that really ruined me was that we used to sell, I don't know if you remember this, but like we used to sell mortgage protection.
Okay,
so they would get like a little coupon, and then they would fill it out, and it would usually be like an older person.
Yep.
And they'll be like concerned about paying off their mortgage, and then we go sit there and do the whole spiel.
So you did all in person.
Yeah, and it was very like you'd squeeze like $200 out of somebody, and then you go like make the money, or you go do a policy, and like, I'm not trying to knock insurance because I mean there's a lot of people that make a lot of money in insurance. It's just very long tailed. And we're both kind of sitting at the same table. It's like you want to make your money and you want to make it quick. And like I just kind of felt like it was like I get 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward,
100%.
Yeah,
that's how it was for me too. Like I think life insurance is a great industry. You can make money. You can. I think, in my opinion, it might be one of the easiest industries nowadays, like doing virtual sales with life insurance. I've seen young kids make 10, 20, 30, 50K months doing it.
Wow.
But for me, it was just like, I like having my freedom where it's like, if you're doing life insurance sales, like at the end of the day, you're still doing sales. You're not running a business unless you build like a team organization.
Right.
And I just got fed up of like every single day, 8, 10 hours a day, dialing the phones, being in front of a computer, and you do it 5, 6 days a week if you want to make that 10, 20, 30K a month.
Talk to me about Airbnbs because I'm really interested in this. I know there's probably a ton of people that have experience doing Airbnbs. I've stayed at Airbnbs.
Yep.
Like, I didn't really think that much about it. I'm kind of sometimes like kind of slow to certain things. You know, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Like kind of like AI. Like I talk about that all the time. And then like once I do it, I'm like, oh, and like a light bulb kind of hits me, right?
Yep.
So talk to me about like, go to like a beginning, right? So somebody is interested, maybe they got like 10 grand, maybe they don't have any grand, maybe they're just kind of like in the same boat that you and me have been in before, where you're just like, you're broke, man. Like, you know, you're just trying to hustle up enough money to like get something going, and then you get something going, and then you're like, crap, man, now I got this thing going. Like, talk to me a little bit about just like your first Airbnb, and then kind of talk to me about like if I had 10K or if I had like good credit and I wanted to buy something.
Yeah. So someone coming from like, let's say you don't even have a few $1,000s to your name. Honestly, I don't really recommend starting like a business, like an Airbnb business, if you're like on your last $1,000 or $2,000 in your bank account. But if you have good credit, which is typically, let's say like you're sitting above a 700 credit score, you have a pretty good credit profile, you could start an Airbnb business on your last $2,000 in your bank account. As long as you have that good credit, you can leverage that good credit to eventually get 10, 20, even $50,000 plus on 0% business credit cards, and then pretty much leverage all that money and start getting properties with the arbitrage model. Now that's one way to do it if you're like in a broke position, if you really, really like entice on starting a Airbnb business. But eventually, once you do get funding, whether it's your personal money or credit cards, which I recommend going down the credit card route, which is as long as you have good credit, you can get 0% business credit cards. That's a smart way to do it. The biggest thing after that is going to come down to like learning how to do this business. Like I tell most people, if you're going to start any business, before you start it, start at least educating yourself, like start learning about it. And there's so many ways nowadays to learn. It's like you could use free resources like the Google, the YouTube, ChatGPT, or are you someone that's like, hey, instead of me trying to learn everything by myself and get confused in all this information that's out there, it's probably sometimes smarter to hire a coach or mentor that who's already maybe been through that phase of like learning the business, doing the business, where you can pay for information and shortcut your whole learning process of having a coach or mentor. But once you kind of start educating yourself and learning, it's like you have to learn how to get properties that you can get approvals from these property owners or these landlords. So that's going to come down to knowing how to pitch them or how to get the idea across the right way where they're going to let you sublease their property. And then from there, it's going to come down to like, do you know how to furnish it correctly, stage the property correctly, get good pictures, hire the right teams in place, and then put a listing together, like setting up your titles, your descriptions, your pricing fees, setting up your automation messages. And then from there, you're basically just managing the property, which comes down to like servicing your guests, making sure they're having a good experience so they can leave you good reviews. As long as you can master this, you can eventually scale to 2 properties and 5 properties and way beyond that.
That's really interesting. I'm going to talk about something here in a second, but like, what do you think the biggest mistake is, outside of not doing the research? Like, what's the biggest mistake? Like, because I'm going to talk about something in a second, but like, somebody is like, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to make some extra money. You know, maybe they are driving Uber. Maybe they're like, okay, well, like I got the Uber thing down. I'm making like $1,000 a week. Let's just say on the good side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like I got this other business, and I'm just trying to like get some more cash flow coming in.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think is the biggest mistake?
Biggest mistake I've probably seen a lot of people that get started that don't like get the proper education is like, there's many of them, but one of the biggest ones would be like, people think just because you sign a rental for a place that you can start doing Airbnb on it. But if you don't tell your property owner or the landlord, or if you're doing an apartment or whether you're doing a single family home, if you don't tell them what you're doing and they do find out, which they will find out, they can basically sue you or all these things. So making sure that you actually have a written agreement when you sign a leasing contract, that somewhere it says, like typically I tell a lot of my students is like, we want to make sure in the leasing contract it says that your LLC is legally allowed to sublease this property as a short-term rental property. So they can't, the property owner or the landlord can't come to you 3 months later or 6 months later like, hey, what are you doing here? It's like, no, it's already written in a contract. You knew what I would be doing. I'm not staying at this property.
What are some of the craziest things that you come across with Airbnbs? Because I saw a video with this young girl, and I think it was kind of a similar situation where she's kind of getting her feet wet, and I think she had way too much emotion towards the particular property. She loved the property, that was her baby kind of deal, and like some guests tore some stuff up, or there was some stuff broken, and she was like, "That's it, like I quit, I'm out of the game." What is like some of the, maybe one of the craziest stories or some of the craziest stuff like you've seen?
So for me, like honestly, in my business, and I've been doing it for 2-3 years, I've never had nothing like super, super crazy. Because a lot of these things, like having a crazy party or where your property gets like fully destroyed, like these things happen because typically it's not a good operator. Like they're not setting the right rules in place. They're not putting out the right fines if someone books. They're not vetting their guests the right way. But few crazy stories I've had, like I had one probably less than 2 months ago, was we had a guest at the property, normal guest that as of we thought, and our cleaner goes there. So I think that guest was there for about 4 days. Our cleaner goes there and they say like they opened the closet because they were, of course, they had to open the closet for like supplies or something. They found a gun in there.
Oh, wow.
So now like the cleaner is scared, like they don't want to touch a gun, evidence and all these different things. So we eventually messaged the guest. We're like, hey, we found this item. And we had to message them off Airbnb. So like Airbnb doesn't trip about it because they can see all the messages. So we found out, we called the guests and they luckily told us, they're like, hey, we have a license for all this stuff. We did bring it. So they were not like admitting that they didn't bring it. And then they actually left back to Michigan. So this was a Chicago property, left back to Michigan. And we're like, hey, look, like we need this picked up from you. We luckily don't have a guest coming today. So like, can you pick it up? So they actually drove down like 4 hours, came back to the property. We put it in like a safe, like we had the cleaner put in like a safe spot outside, like right there. And then they came and grabbed it. So that was a little crazy because you're like, damn, if a new guest comes in and they see it, it's like issues on issues. So that's happened. I've had a few like parties, like weed happening, things like that, but nothing where I've like had a property fully destroyed or anything. And these can be prevented if you put in your rules, like $500 smoking fee, $500 event fee. Like typically you won't have the wrong guest booking your property. Or you can also have on Airbnb where it's like, in order for someone to book at least directly, you can have a check mark where it says people can only instantly book if they have a good track record. So they've already had previous hosts that they've stayed with, and the previous hosts have given them good reviews. So those are things like typically you can prevent. In the last 3 years of me hosting and me having 18 properties, I've probably had less than 3-4 parties thrown total.
Wow.
So very low. Like it's not as bad as people think if you know how to operate correctly.
So one of the things that I've come across is a lot of people, they'll get into like a lease for an apartment and then move into another apartment with like a significant other, like a boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever the situation, or maybe some friends, and they leave behind that apartment. Or it'll be a situation where like they can't get out of the lease and they bought a house, because I come across that too.
Yeah.
And like breaking the lease is going to be like $7,500 or something, right? So they're like, well, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So I'll just leave it alone. Have you come across like apartments that you just put on Airbnb and it's just like a situation where it's an empty apartment? It's just, hey, look, like, I'm staying with my girlfriend. I got this empty apartment. Can you fill it up? Does that work out?
Honestly, I haven't really done that. I had a recent friend situation where like he's going out of the country for 2 months. The apartment that we live in is like, you're not legally supposed to be Airbnb-ing it, but he's willing to take the risk and put it on Airbnb. But the problem is, like, if you do it and you do get caught, which there's a very likelihood you will if you have like one bad apple, which is a bad guest, the apartments, I don't think they'll go as far as suing you, but they could terminate your lease, they could fine you, whatever that situation is. So I usually don't recommend people do it. the better way to do that, typically, if you're getting out of a lease, just put that property on like a medium term rental. So you find one good guest that you can vet the right way, and then put it for like 30-day minimum. So you know, okay, there's only one person staying here for the next 30 days. Make sure they have maybe signed like a little contract what they can do. That's a smarter route than like putting a property where you got out of an apartment and you want it booked for the next 3 months, so you're not losing money on rent. Do a medium term rental with one good guest rather than short term rentals where it's like 3 days a guest is booking, you have 5-6 different guests in a month.
Tell me about your structure of a team and like how to do it, because I've come across some folks that do Airbnb and they have like just a regular like maid service or something like that. And then I come across somebody that's a professional, like they have multiple properties and they just have teams that like go in and do that. Like, how would you structure a team? Somebody brand new looking to do it and they got money to like go and do that.
So best way to do Airbnb, like the way I operate, I run it as like a real business, right? So it's like, do you want to run Airbnb as like a little side hustle? Maybe you pick up one property, maybe you clean your property. It's like, yes, can you make more profit margin if you clean your own property? Sure, but you're not running a business at the end of the day. So the way I've structured my business is like, let's say I get a property. I really don't care. Like, out of 18 of my properties, I've probably never been to about 6 or 7 of them. I've never seen them in person because I know how to virtually hire people, set up teams the right way. So when you're launching a property, if you get into a property that's not furnished, of course, your first step after you get a lease in place, you want to get that place furnished. So what I typically do is I personally will order furniture to that property. Usually Amazon's like 90% of it. And then once that furniture is there, I go and hire a furniture builder, furniture assembler, whatever you want to call them. And typically you can use a website called Thumbtack. Have you ever used Thumbtack? Yeah. So you can use Thumbtack, hire a furniture builder out, pay them to go build out the furniture, which depending on the property size, most of everything can usually be built within 3 to 7 days in a property if it's between a 1-bedroom and a 3-bedroom spot. Get the property furniture built out from a property or from a furniture builder. So once they do that, they're done with you. Like, they build out the furniture, you don't typically need them again. Then you might need a handyman for situations if things come up where you need a handyman, which you can also use Thumbtack. But once you have the furniture built out, after that, you need a cleaner, which should be your permanent cleaner. So for cleaners, and I'll give it to people, it's like there's a website called Turno. You can hire professional Airbnb cleaners on this website, like really good people with good reviews. Once you hire a cleaner for the first part, after the furnishing's done, you can actually the cleaner can go clean up the property and then stage it up. And then the staging would be mainly done then you hire a professional photographer. Same thing with the professional photographer. I've hired a lot of them off Thumbtack. You hire the professional photographer, they come in, they take professional photos, 20, 30, 40 photos. Once they get you those photos back and your place is set up and you have the smart lock and keypad locks in place, it doesn't matter where you're sitting in the world. Like, I recently launched a property in Arizona. I'm sitting back home in Florida, didn't even go there. Once I get the professional photos back from the photographer, I could sit on my laptop and make my whole listing, setting up the photos on there, setting up my listing description, titles, everything like that. And now the only person that you really, really need in your team, at least like on the property premises, is going to be your cleaner. And then that too is pretty cool because on the website like Turno, you can actually sync your Airbnb calendar with Turno. So those cleaners know automatically when to go for cleanings without you having to text them every single time.
Nice.
It's like me running 18 properties. I'm not texting my cleaners when to go for cleanings. They already know. They have the calendar exactly what my Airbnb booking calendar is, and they automatically go for cleanings. They take before and after pictures, and things usually run smooth. If they have issues, then that's where they like message us.
I know Airbnb is getting very crowded. I know some people that are doing Airbnbs that aren't nearly as, business oriented. Well, I mean, they're business oriented, but not in terms of Airbnb. So with that, is there, some nuggets, some strategies, some stuff that you can like kind of help somebody that is starting out?
Yeah. So biggest thing, like now we're going into 2020. Well, we're in 2025. We're going into 2026 in a few months. It's definitely changed since I started a little bit. Not hugely. It's still the same principles. It's still pretty much the same business. But the biggest thing I've seen now shifted, especially as like more people are learning about the arbitrage model online and more people are trying to get into it and there's more properties doing it. you have to really separate yourself when it comes to property, furnishing and staging, having really good photography done at the property, and knowing how to set up your listing in terms of like having the right descriptions, having nice titles, knowing how to actually price the property correctly, making sure you're actually in the right location where there's actually visitors coming. So those are big things. And I always tell people, like, in 2025, as much as the market's getting saturated, I always tell people it's really still not saturated when it comes to professional hosts. So like I could be in a market, like I'm in Chicago. In that 5 or 10 mile radius, there's hundreds of Airbnbs. Out of those hundreds, there's probably only 20 to 25 that even have professional photos taken. Out of those 25, there's probably only 15 that are actually setting up pricing the right way. Out of those 15, there's probably only 10 of them that actually have nice titles and descriptions that look organized, where like a guest goes on Airbnb and they're actually attracted, like, oh, this is nice, the pricing's right, the description looks like pretty clean. So the market's getting saturated, but when it comes still to like professional hosts and professional listings, it's not really saturated among that in most markets.
That's how I feel about real estate. There's like a ton of realtors out there, but like when you really boil it down, there's really not that many realtors that are like super successful.
Playing the game at the high level, yeah.
And then you get like, you get middle players, but for the most part, like it's either like you're at the bottom or you're at the top.
Yeah.
One last question, which I thought was like really cool. So I know someone that does Airbnb. I have a townhome right next to where I am and where I'm staying, and they get like $6,600 a month. They do like a longer term lease with the guests.
Mm-hmm.
Their mortgage is like $4,000 or something, and every single month they're walking away with $2,600.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty crazy.
That's good. I mean, yeah, $2,600 a month. They're gaining equity, right? Because they have a mortgage, cash flow. They get equity, the tax purposes. They're not having to spend time. So that's amazing.
Do they? If it's somebody like that, do you see them taking that equity out at some point and then moving to like another property, doing another Airbnb?
That's probably a smart thing to do. If like your goal is to scale, then yeah, like you take out the equity and then you move into more properties and you keep scaling up the business. It's probably the smart way to go about it.
Daanish, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I learned a lot. If anybody was interested in finding out more about your business and kind of like your background, which I think is really cool, where would they find you?
Yeah, so my main 2 platforms that I'm most active on, I have my Instagram, which is just my last name, Azim, and first name, Daanish, Daanish. And then my YouTube, which is just, again, my name, Daanish Azim. So those are the 2 most active platforms. And yeah, pretty much I've started an Airbnb business, and now my goal is also to kind of coach and teach other people on how to start and scale their Airbnb business the right way as well.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Awesome.
Thank you.